Let me ask you something. You're standing in your kitchen. The kettle is right in front of you. You fill it with water, place it back on the counter, and then you wait. And you wait, and you wait some more. 3 minutes later, you realize you never switched it on. Sound familiar? Now, here's the real question. What if I told you that the person who did this has an IQ of 145? Because it happens, more often than you think. And today, we're going to find out exactly why. Here's a classic test used by psychologists around the world. A doctor gives a patient 3 pills and tells him to take one every half hour. How long will the pills last? If your answer was 1.5 hours, I'm afraid you're wrong. The correct answer is 1 hour. You take the first pill immediately, then one at 30 minutes, then one at 60 minutes. 1 hour total. Now, don't feel bad. This exact question was given to a group of university students, and over 70% of them got it wrong. These are educated people who passed exams, wrote dissertations, and memorized entire textbooks. So, what happened? Your brain is lazy, and that's not an insult. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your brain hates thinking. Not because you're stupid, but because thinking is genuinely expensive. Your brain makes up only 2% of your body weight, but consumes a staggering 20% of your total energy every single day. So to save energy, your brain developed a system, a fast, automatic, shortcut-based way of processing the world around you. Psychologists call this System 1 thinking. It's quick, effortless, and runs almost entirely on autopilot. And most of the time, it works brilliantly. See a car speeding towards you? Jump out of the way. You don't stop to calculate velocity and stopping distance, you just move. But this same system that saves your life in traffic is the exact same system that makes you put the milk in the cupboard and the cereal in the fridge at 7 a.m. Because System 1 doesn't think. It assumes. It pattern matches. It takes the most familiar route and runs with it. And the smarter you are, the more dangerous this actually becomes.
The intelligence trap. Here's where it gets genuinely fascinating. In 2008, psychologist Keith Stanovich conducted a series of studies at the University of Toronto. He gave hundreds of participants a battery of logic and reasoning tests alongside standard IQ assessments. What he found shocked the academic world. High IQ had almost zero correlation with rational thinking. Let me say that again. Being intelligent, genuinely, measurably intelligent, does not make you a better rational thinker. In fact, in some cases, it makes you worse. Why? Because intelligent people are better at one very specific thing, justifying whatever they already believe. Psychologists call this motivated reasoning. Your brain doesn't just find shortcuts to save energy, it finds shortcuts to protect your ego. And the more intellectual firepower you have, the more convincing your own internal arguments become. So a highly intelligent person doesn't just make a mistake, they make a mistake and then construct a beautifully logical, internally consistent, completely wrong explanation for why they were actually right all along. Sound like anyone you know? The smartest people who got it completely wrong. Let's talk about some real examples, because this isn't just theory. Linus Pauling, 2-time Nobel Prize winner, one of the greatest chemists in human history, a man so brilliant that scientists named a concept after him, Pauling's rules. In the 1970s, Pauling became utterly convinced that vitamin C in megadoses could cure cancer. Not help, cure. He spent the last 2 decades of his life aggressively promoting this idea, dismissing every contradicting study, calling other scientists incompetent. The scientific consensus today? High-dose vitamin C does not cure cancer. Or consider Isaac Newton, arguably the greatest scientific mind who ever lived, the man who gave us gravity, calculus, and the laws of motion. Newton spent more years of his life obsessively studying alchemy, the pseudo-scientific quest to turn metal into gold, than he ever spent on actual physics. These are not stupid men. These are the opposite of stupid men. And yet, so what was going wrong? The missing software. In the 1990s, cognitive scientist David Perkins introduced a concept that explains almost everything we've discussed so far. He called it mindware. Think of your brain as a smartphone. Your raw intelligence, your IQ, is the hardware, the processor, the RAM, the storage capacity. But hardware alone is useless without software. And mindware is your software. It's the collection of strategies, frameworks, reasoning tools, and thinking habits your brain has downloaded throughout your life. Things like understanding probability, recognizing logical fallacies, knowing how confirmation bias works, being genuinely open to being wrong. Here's the critical point. Mindware is not automatic. It has to be learned. It has to be actively downloaded. And no matter how powerful your hardware is, if the software isn't there, the system fails. Professor Stanovich calls the missing pieces mindware gaps, and every single one of us has them. Gaps in our knowledge, our reasoning strategies, our mental frameworks. The difference is, most highly intelligent people don't know their gaps exist because they're too busy being impressed by everything they already know. The disrationalia problem. In 1993, Keith Stanovich formally named this phenomenon. He called it disrationalia, defined as the inability to think and behave rationally despite having adequate or even superior intelligence. And this changes everything about how we think about smart people making dumb decisions. Because it's not a paradox, it's actually completely predictable. Intelligence gets you into a good university. It helps you memorize case law, understand differential equations, pass every exam they put in front of you. But rationality is what tells you to get a second opinion on that medical diagnosis. Rationality is what makes you question whether your business plan actually has a flaw in it. Rationality is what stops you doubling down on a bad decision just because admitting you're wrong feels uncomfortable. And here's the most important part. Unlike IQ, which is largely genetic and peaks in your early 20s, rationality is something you can actually improve. Every book you read critically, every argument you genuinely engage with instead of dismiss, every time you ask yourself, what evidence would actually change my mind, you are upgrading your mindware. You are becoming not just smarter, but genuinely wiser. So, let's come back to our friend standing in the kitchen, staring at a cold, unboiled kettle. Is he unintelligent? No. Is he irrational? In that moment, yes. And that distinction matters more than any IQ score ever measured, because the world is not a series of logic puzzles on a standardized test. The world is messy, emotional, fast-moving, and deeply uncomfortable. And the people who navigate it best aren't always the ones with the highest IQ. They're the ones who genuinely learned to question their own thinking, to slow down when their instinct said speed up, to say, I might be wrong when everything in them screamed otherwise. Studies show that people who score high on rationality assessments experience significantly fewer negative life outcomes, fewer failed relationships, fewer financial disasters, fewer health crises caused by bad decisions. Not because they're luckier, because they think better. So the next time you meet someone brilliant who does something baffling, don't wonder how they could be so smart and so wrong at the same time. Wonder instead, what software are they missing? And then, more importantly, ask yourself the same question.